What's up, guys? Coach Mike here. So I wanted to do a little something different for everybody. And we're working on getting a lot of online content and getting a lot of workouts, getting a lot of different drills, and, just a lot of the online classes and stuff for you guys to take. But just for you guys to have something a little different and a little special, I say we because I'm sitting here with my dog. I am going to give you guys a breakdown of one of my fights and let you guys kind of know where my head is at with the things that I'm doing, okay? So, for a little bit of a setup, this is in Muncie, Indiana for the USFC. I was about, not really sure how many, but I probably had about 15 MMA fights at this point. And all amateur. And we drove out there. And we got there and they said to me basically, hey, your opponent did not show. Which was, I don't want to be a jerk, but it was a common thing. And still kind of is. And they had their pro champ, Don Stafford. 5-0 as pro, not really sure on his amateur record. Or I didn't know anything about him, obviously, because I didn't research him or anything like that. And they said, you wanna make your pro debut against him? Can't be for a title because you don't have any pro fights, but we'll let you fight him. And I'm like, shit. Well, I didn't come to not fight, so let's do it. In my head, it really wasn't about. I hadn't won any titles, I don't think, at that point yet, and it was just a off a whim, I guess, if you would, with both of our guys not showing up, and so I started to get ready, and a lot of people, I guess, here's a dive into my brain. A lot of people don't know. I try and I hide a lot, but I get super nervous, and not really the day of the fight, the day of weigh-ins, all that. I'm good. I am a rock. Sheila used to call me the Iceman. And, you really can't even tell I'm fighting. But that week before, that 2 weeks before, man, that's a hell of a time. Because it's coming. You just want to get it out of the way. You just want to do it, And it's a lot better if you just make yourself, hey, I'm going to fight no matter who they put in front of me, blah, blah, blah. That stuff. You just get your head wrapped around it a lot better. And I was super nervous and was living with a girl. And I was biting my nails really bad. And she was like, you need to stop biting your nails. And I was like, oh, I really can't. I'm freaking out about this fight, blah, blah, blah. This was the week of. And she's like, well, here. And she got out her black nail polish and painted my nails. And she was like, you won't bite your nails now. Because if you do, it'll be gross. And you won't want to taste it. I was like, man, interesting. So I left them on there and we went to the fights. And kid you not, after all this got set up, Short Stack comes over and he's like, hey, your guy's eyeing you up. And I kid you not, I turn, look to my left. There this guy is, pointing at me, and then he looks down at his nails and faces his hand towards himself, and he starts laughing, and points over at me. I'm sure saying some choice words, and him and all his friends catch me looking, and they all go dead silent and start to look forward. And I had a rage come in me that. It rarely shows up, but one of the things I hate is being embarrassed, and that I was so mad about it. So Anyways, I was ready to go. You know, my brother fought that night. I was the main event. You know, one of the things that I always loved watching my brother fight before I fought, because it just put me in this, like, I want to get in that cage and fight that guy with him, and like you can't do that, so you're having to like turn that off, so you're already penting up a lot of like frustration and stuff. But I was ready to go for this one, man. I was pumped up, you know. So without further ado, we'll get going here. We'll get some pauses in. We'll talk about some of the stuff that I do, some of the things that I'm looking. One thing I knew about this guy is he had a big cross. I believe a couple of the coaches that I was with had seen him fight in Indiana before. So I knew I wanted to circle to his jab hand. So the first thing I noticed is I'm taller than the guy. So I'm going to keep my range. Obviously, I want to keep my distance at the beginning of anything anyways. But it's big because he's going to need to break that distance with me. He's going to be the one that needs to. So I have to establish that stick and start pulling him towards me and then breaking it when I want to break it. I can't let him break that stick because then he's going to get to me. You get what I'm saying? He's going to get to me where I don't have my defense. I don't have my spacing. So I got to give him what he needs to take and then take back in order to prevent him from getting the center of that cage. All right. But I always do that in my head. I'm going to have to circle to that jab hand, especially because he's got a big cross, which is common, guys. So if you circle to that jab hand, just circle to that jab hand. If you continue to circle to the cross, you're going to get caught up by it. Dan Henderson, Mike Bisping, 1. So I come out, I bring myself down low because I want this guy thinking we're going to get into this big brawl. Like I'm coming down to your level. And then you'll see me rise up a little bit out of it. And I go instantly to this head kick. Now, I started this fight low. I started like we were going to brawl, like I'm going to come in and throw hands with them. And as soon as I step up and drift out of there, I throw this head kick, knowing that he's going to be coming back after this. And sure he does. Instead of cutting off the cage and coming towards us, going to his right, my left in this video right here, he starts chasing me and allows me to get out to the outside and reestablish my jab. Once I reestablish my jab there, as you can see, he takes a horrible shot. No setup. He actually waited till I threw that jab. And which is actually what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted out of the head kick. I wanted him to freak out when I threw that jab. It wasn't necessarily like I was trying to knock him out with that head kick. It's not necessarily that I was trying to break his nose with that jab. I still threw him, but these are all in order to invite him, make him take a shot like this. I want to see what we're seeing here. Okay, if I can make this guy commit from this far out, now a pro, you're usually not going to have this. You're not going to have this non-setup shot. It's not going to be that easy to make a guy panic by just throwing a head kick and jab. You know what I'm saying? Now, from here, I feel that we're going to bounce off of this cage here. And I want to use that momentum, jacking those arms up. I got my underhooks here. I jack his arms up as high as I can. I establish my bear hug. Now, I instantly want to get my hips. This is where it's key. I have to get my hips under this guy's hips in order to make the lift easier. If my hips are above him, my feet are going to be on the ground, okay? I might lift him up a little bit since I'm a little taller than him. But if I got an opponent taller than me, I have to get my hips lower than his hips once I do get that bear hug in order to get this lift off the ground. And once I get the lift off the ground, I'm literally stepping away from the space that I'm in, and I'm replacing that space where my feet were with his back, hopefully with his head, okay? Boom, big slam. You guys see what I mean? How you lift, you step out of the space, and you return the opponent, to that exact space. Now from here, he was very strong. He was locking me down. He was starting to move his hips side to side. I wouldn't say he was necessarily doing all the right things. He needed to get a little bit flattened out towards me. Again, I think this guy was a really good fighter. I just don't think he was with a camp that he needed to be with. I was surrounded by some really good guys, some really good people, and we were training the right things, not just going, and we were taking hard fights too. This is not the first time we went to a place and somebody didn't show up, and then all of a sudden we were fighting in the main event. Once I got here, I needed to stay flat, and I just wanted to put pressure on him. I knew I had a great position. As you can see, after that slam, I set it up to as where I could put my left knee right in there next to his hip as soon as he hit the ground in order to prevent him from coming back over on me. Now, it's a freestyle wrestling tactic. It's called loading. One of the things I like to do is I like to get that left knee up under the opponent. That way, because what Donald is going to need to do now is he's going to need to face me. He's going to need to get his frame together, and he's going to need to face me in order to get his guard retention back and get those legs in between him and I here on the ground. All right. What I want to do is I want to prevent that. So one of the ways I can prevent that is I like to gain, because I already know the guy's going to try and gain control of me in order to prevent me from striking him. He's on the ground. He's in trouble. He doesn't want to get hit down here. Okay. He's going to lock me up. So I'm going to return the favor and let him lock me up. I'm just going to hold on tight, and I'm going to place my knees in the positions, my body and my knees in the positions that prevent him from doing the defense of which it would take to get me out of that position, which is face me, get those knees in, retain his guard, and then start to work for a sweep or start to work for an escape from there. All right. Now, I feel him going super strong, holding me tight, and I feel his legs, and I already can tell he's not doing the things he needs to do to prevent me from getting here. So I figure I gotta sit, wait, and pick my spot. I started putting pressure onto his chin in order to kind of prevent him from pulling me in too tight. That way I could get a little space, but I also wanted him to lock onto my arm really tight. I wanted him to just waste as much energy as he could to lock onto my arm, because with this positioning that I have, it sets up a downward, roundhouse delivery elbow, but it's coming downward. But what it ends up being still is a downward delivery elbow, downward roundhouse delivery elbow. Okay, because I'm on the ground. I knew I'd get that downward roundhouse delivery elbow. Okay, but it's only downward because of the position that you're in. It's not bringing it down. You're roundhousing it, but the position that you're in is coming down on your opponent. So again, you have gravity. Not only do I have gravity, I got this opponent's head on the mat. And again, you're going to see why this lift is important. why this load is important under his hips. Big explosion there from him. He tried, and I was like, all right, good. Now, here I'm staying on his chest. I don't want to be down on his hips. If I'm down on his hips here, if I have my body weight down on his hips, a big explosion like that, he may be able to get a guard retention in. He might be able to get me off of him really high because his hips are so strong. He might be able to get me off him really high and get a lot of space in there and get his hips back into me. From here, I want to put that chest pressure down on his chest. I want his back flat on that mat. Okay, that way when he does have that big explosion of the hips, I just lean up a little bit and I'm fine. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still staying on top of him. Now, after that big explosion, you'll see I could feel his grip on my arm starting to weaken up, okay? I could feel that my right arm was going to get free eventually. So I started matting myself with my left arm. I believe I'm going to have to watch it really quick again. I haven't watched it well. I'm going to mat himself with my left arm. I start putting that around his waist. And then again, I start taking that left knee and I start loading it under his body. Now, what this does for me is it allows me to angle his head to where his hips are above his head and his head and back are now flat on the mat, okay? If this guy's hips are on the mat, he's able to lift his head off of the mat, and anytime I hit it, he's got really about 3 or 4 inches of movement of space to give, whereas if I load those hips up on my leg and get those hips up high and get that head flat against the floor, ladies and gentlemen, it's the hammer and anvil effect. If I hold a stick up and hit it with a hammer, it might break the stick. It probably is going to bend the stick, not break it, and you're probably might hurt the stick, but it's not going to do very much damage. But if I hold a hammer up and I take a stick and I put that stick on an anvil and then I hit it, the stick's going to blow up. The stick's going to explode. So that's what I want out of the head. I want the head flat on the floor. That's why I like using the cage when I do hit somebody. That's why I like having the guys back against the ropes, because that way they can't move anywhere. Their head has less space to go, okay? In a cage, I love having that head flat on the floor. So we got the load up here. Right there, if you could see me place that knee under him. Now, I'm lifting and boom. Lifting and boom. Lifting and boom. Mind the positioning of my left knee and my left arm. I'm using that left arm to cinch him in over the wedge given to me by my left knee. And as soon as my right arm comes free, I'm pulling it behind me as far as I can in order to get room for me to generate power. And then I'm bringing it down flat, aiming for his temple with the point of my elbow. You can hear my little brother yelling. He didn't like that. He was so wild at fights. So he was pretty out of it after that, and I think the ref could tell. He started grabbing onto me real hard, and I'll never forget seeing that hole in his face. I wanted to rip it off of his head. As soon as I seen it, I wanted to open it up further and further and further. That's your goal when you're going out there to fight somebody. You're there to give the fans entertainment, and you're there to do the most damage to the other guy. It's what everybody wants to see. I know people. I know I'm going to get grief over this. I know people that do jiu-jitsu want to get their guy out of there safely. They want to. I totally understand that, but I am a fan of this first. And me as a fan of it, I want to see two guys trying to kill each other. That's all I want to see, okay? And so when I interpret that into my own practice of my martial arts, that's what I'm trying to give you guys. I am going to go out there and I'm going to try and kill this guy, and I hope that this other guy is going to try and kill me. All right? That's my outlook on it. Now, I don't necessarily feel remorse for this guy. He knows exactly what he's getting into. But I'll share a story with you here after we finish. Again, posting the left knee under, cinching him tight with the left arm, and then as soon as the right arm is let go, I'm loading and firing. Load, fire. I mean, it is instant. And it's kind of perfect because when you're pulling that away and what I'm doing is I'm unsheathing the sword. I don't want to give him a big bar for me to like pull that arm out. I want to pull that arm straight out. And it's kind of perfect because when I unsheath that sword, it loads up my elbow perfectly. And there is the hole in the guy's head, right under the C. Funny story, and maybe not funny, but ay. I will never forget that hole. I will never, ever, ever in my life forget the hole in that man's head. What's funny is I completely forgot about him making fun of me. And afterwards, he was such a nice guy, and I was so polite with him. And then we got in the car afterwards, and he was like, my brother was like, man, I can't believe that guy made fun of you. And I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot. Completely forgot. Now, so as you can tell, this was I'm not going to call it, see, that's part of it is that the hole in this guy's head, the way it had folded up, like knotted up over to the side of it, right in the middle of his head, it had like filled with blood over there and was like, it was coming down in front of his eye. So I went in the back and, I had all my buddies back there. Everybody's congratulating me. Everything's good. And, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So ran in, and I walk in the bathroom and, there were a couple of fights before us, a guy had gotten hurt really bad. And the EMS had to take him out. They hadn't come back. And this was in Indiana, and the commissions was non-existent there at this time. There was some really terrible promoters. A lot of guys would set you up with these fights, and if their guy won, they'd tell about the fight. They'd report the fight and register the fights. And then if their guy didn't win, they wouldn't want a loss going on their guy's record. So they wouldn't even report the fights. It was some pretty shady business. But I went back and go in the bathroom, and it's this gentleman's mom. And there he is on the ground. So there's dude's mom and dude in the men's bathroom on the ground, and the mom is holding the guy's head together. And she looks back at me with tears in her eyes, and she says, I didn't know that you could throw elbows. And Don looks right at his mom and goes, hey, Ma, I knew we could throw elbows. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. So instantly I laughed, and I was like, yeah, you're all right, man. I was like, I got you with a good one, huh? And he was like, yeah. And we chatted after that, and he was just a really nice guy. His mom refused to talk to me, which I totally understand. I mean, like, you know, this is a weird sport. Like, I've had guys, some boys of mine, like, lose, and I'm like, you know what? I hate that dude. You know, the guy that beat him, like, this is a hard sport, and it's emotional, you know? I think one of the things that really made a difference for me in fighting was when I learned that the emotions aren't bad, that what's bad is the application of them. What's bad is the way you use them, the way you let them use you. You know, it reminds me of a little message that I heard the other day, that we have two emotions. One is bad and one is good. And you have emotions that control you, and you have emotions that you control. And the idea is putting more into the emotions that you control, that benefit you, the ones you can use. You know, I think it was actually fear was the emotion that they were speaking of. And I believe that the more you can use something, you have emotions for a reason, you know. It's kind of like pain receptors. You know, you have pain because you've hurt something on your body, because something's going on. Emotion's the same thing. It's only for a mental aspect of it. And when you really unlock your ability to not just develop that muscle, but develop the ability to use everything and on a quick basis, on a scale of which that you can be using this as an advantage to you and turn around and you have a new emotion and you use that as you're now scaffolding the same way we talk in practice, the same way we work on our foot drills and we work on our 1-2 drill, and we build off of that. And we have all these small little things that once you get one thing, you're adding to it, you're building off of it. We're building off. The building never stops. The scaffolding never stops. And that is 100% true with the mental game as well as it is the physical game. All right, so I want you guys to make sure that while you're taking this time to work on your physical aspects of your game and work on all these things that you're getting time to do now, make sure 100% that you are working on your mental game. Meditation, breathing exercises, journaling, all that stuff, you guys, all that stuff. Keep talking to yourself. One of my favorite things that I've done the past, I think it was a year ago that I did it. I wrote a letter to my 16-year-old self. I wrote a letter to my 16-year-old self, okay? I suggest everybody does this. It was one of the most therapeutic things I've ever done in my life. Because essentially, you're writing a letter to yourself, to the you that you want to be. It's very interesting. You get into some deep thoughts in there. So once again, we come out. I see he's a southpaw, and I know he's got a big cross, so I just circle to that jab, and I put that kick up there. That kick, again, is to more make him realize, hey, you got to block with that thing too. You don't get to just throw that hand. Big slam, using the momentum off the cage. We start the load, preventing the guy from getting his body over to me so he can shrimp and get his guard back. Letting him lock down my arm. I have no problem here. Start the frame. Cut the angle, load, and fire. So, one of my favorite fights. one of my favorite times. We had a really good time out there in Muncie, Indiana. And this is one of the moments I'll never forget. The only thing I regret is that the promoter did not register these fights. But it is what it is. It was an interesting time. They called it the Wild West for a reason. So, I want to thank you guys very much. I am not 100% sure what this will be. This may be a vanishing class for you guys. But I just wanted to give you guys a little something to check out. A little something to, get a couple stories. And also get a couple ideas of where my head's at when I am fighting personally. All right? Well, you guys have a good week. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you guys shortly.